So a question that I often get asked is, can I practice Korean by myself? Or even, how can I practice Korean by myself? So first, let's talk about the pros of practicing Korean by yourself. So if you're a beginner, you're not going to be able to have any sort of real conversation anyway. So it's not necessary in the very beginning to practice directly with a native Korean what you're learning. You might tell the Korean, 안녕하세요, hello, 반갑습니다, nice to meet you, right? And then they would reply with something, maybe it's just nice to meet you too, but you might not even understand what they're saying back to you. So in that situation, it's the exact same as simply practicing to a wall or practicing by yourself, because you're not going to be able to understand whatever feedback you would be getting, at least not yet. Another pro is that practicing by yourself is completely free, and you can do it as much as you want. So if you're meeting with a Korean pen pal, you might have to, go out to eat dinner or eat lunch in order to meet, or at a cafe, or perhaps you're giving them 30 minutes of English practice in exchange for 30 minutes of Korean practice. Something is going to make that not free. And finally, I think the best reason to practice by yourself is that practicing with a native Korean, especially in the beginning, can be really embarrassing. You can feel really shy about that because you don't want them to perceive you as someone who's not intelligent or someone who's a baby. You want to be able to show off your Korean, and you can feel shy about that. So if you're practicing by yourself, you don't have to worry about feeling shy if you make a mistake or you don't know what to say or there's a long gap between each sentence you're making. So I think that these pros are pretty good, and I think that we can conclude from this that if you're a new beginner and you're still learning how to make the most basic types of sentences and maybe you're a bit shy, then you should definitely practice Korean by yourself. However, there are some cons to consider as well. You're never going to learn any new material if you're only practicing by yourself. You can only learn what's in your textbook or what you've been studying. And this is a real negative. That means you can never become fluent at Korean by only practicing with yourself. In addition, you will not be able to improve your listening skills if you're not practicing and listening to a Korean talking with you. And you won't be able to get better at pronunciation very much unless you have some sort of feedback by talking in Korean and actually practicing your pronunciation and then hearing how they speak it back to you. Now, one exception is if you do watch a lot of dramas and listen to a lot of podcasts, you can in that way learn better pronunciation, but actually being able to make that sort of accurate pronunciation yourself, you need feedback of a Korean person telling you if they understood you or not. Another problem with practicing by yourself is that you're never going to know if you're making mistakes. Now, if you're repeating exactly a phrase that you heard from a drama or something like that, you might even have weird intonation. It might not match the situation. You need feedback from natives to tell you if you're making mistakes or if you're even sounding natural. You cannot learn natural Korean conversation without having natural Korean conversations. And in order to do that, you need a native Korean to practice with you. There is no way that you could learn natural Korean conversation through only practicing by yourself. So it looks like there are some pretty convincing cons why you shouldn't, but also some strong pros. So should you practice in Korean by yourself? 100% yes. And here's why. No matter the cons, you can practice Korean by yourself while you are also practicing with a Korean. You could have Korean friends who you're practicing Korean with at any level. Basic, hello, nice to meet you, what did you eat? I did this today. As your Korean slowly improves, you'll be able to have more conversations, but you can still start practicing with a native Korean. Now you have to keep in mind the downsides. You might have to have some sort of exchange. It's not going to be just a one-way street. You're not going to only be learning Korean. You have to also be a friend to someone. They have to be getting something out of it too. It's got to be a fair relationship. Also, you might feel shy speaking with a native Korean, and that's something you will have to get over if you want to be able to learn how to have natural Korean. So first, here's how to practice Korean by yourself. Start right away in the beginning. Do this as soon as you've even learned the most basic, just learn the alphabet and how to write a few syllables. You can start practicing by saying things out loud and recording yourself to see if you can hear if it sounds like what you think you should be saying. You can also practice by making basic sentences using what you're learning and by speaking those out loud, pretending that you're talking with someone else. Another tip for how to practice by yourself is take your time. When you're practicing with someone else, you have to be in the moment. You can't stop and think of the best way to say something, usually. You're gonna have to just say whatever you can come up with. When you're practicing by yourself, you can take as much time as you want to think about what you want to say. Another tip, and this actually came from my friend Sophie, who I met with in Korea, and I made a video with her, and she recommended practice thinking in Korean. Now this, of course, just like speaking, is not going to be very good in the beginning. You might not be able to make full, complete sentences. So maybe you're walking down the street and you see a dog, you can think to yourself, 강아지 or 개. You're still getting your brain used to coming up with Korean that you're learning, and this will still be effective. And you can do this all throughout the day, as much or as little as you want. And finally, the most important tip for how to practice by yourself is get a practice partner anyway. Get a pen pal, really. You can get a pen pal from the apps HelloTalk or Tandem, as well as the websites Conversation Exchange, Interpals, and there's really a dozen more apps and websites you can use, and they're all kind of similar. The nice thing about having an online pen pal instead of a real-life pen pal is because you can spend as much time as you want replying to that person, and you can reply whenever you have free time. That can be 2 minutes while you're sitting down to use the bathroom, or it can be 20 minutes while you're eating lunch if you're a really busy person. The point is, everyone has enough time to keep up with a pen pal online, but not everyone has enough time to have real-life pen pals. So if you have your own questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in another episode of Korean FAQ. 그럼 다음에 또 봐.